to the BookWorm Club!
My name is Christy, this is Angie, and this is Emily.
Our month's theme is about tragedy.
Christy's book is called Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. My book is called Mindhunter by John Douglas. And Emily's book is called Shot in the Heart by Michael Gilmore.
So, Christiane, tell us a bit about your book.
David Sheff is the father of Nick Sheff, who is one of the main characters throughout the book, Beautiful Boy. And it's about this father who helps his son Nick go through his journey of addiction and alcohol. And throughout the book you would see Nick, he would seem peaceful at times, and other times he would seem really depressed because of his relapse. Many times throughout the book you'll see this happen, and the father has had many doubts of him, but eventually throughout the end of the book he becomes sober and they grow back the relationship that they've lost.
So Angie, tell us about your book.
My book is a nonfiction autobiography, and it was published in 1995. It tells the story of John Douglas over his 25-year career as a mindhunter in the FBI agent's serial killer crime unit. This book is his story of 25 years in the pursuit of criminal justice. The topic makes the book not all that pleasant to read despite its value. Hard truths are presented in an effort to face the experience of men at its most despicable level.
Michael Gilmore wrote about his family's past, in which he didn't know much of because he was the youngest sibling and his family had settled down by then, and there was less violence in the household. His father, Frank, had moved the family all around America because he would scam and steal people's money. Both parents, Bessie and Frank, were verbally and physically abusive to each other and their children, Frank Jr., Gary, Galen, and Michael. Both parents would constantly fight and showed a lot of hatred and rarely ever showed affection towards each other and their children. This caused a very dysfunctional family, which had started from their families, which consisted of child abuse, alcoholism, and etc. violence.
So what would you say is the author's purpose for your book?
So he wrote this book to talk about his family's traumatic history and to confront its darkest secrets about murder and violence. How about you, Angie? What was your author's purpose?
My author's purpose is to inform about the mind of a serial killer and how they think, and how the process is when they become that serial killer.
For mine, I would say that David, he wanted to inform the readers about the use of drugs and how it not only affects the person who's using it, but it also affects the people who are around you when you're using it. I just want to say some quotes that I thought was really meaningful. Our children live or die with or without us. No matter what we do, no matter how we agonize or obsess, we cannot choose for our children whether they live or die. It is a devastating realization, but also liberating. I finally choose life for myself. Through Nick's drug addiction, I have learned that parents can hear almost anything. I shock myself with my ability to rationalize and tolerate things once unthinkable. The rationalizations escalate. It's only marijuana. He gets high only on weekends. At least he's not using hard drugs, etc. And then anyone who has lived through it, or those who are not living through it, knows the caring about an addict as complex and fraught and debilitating as addiction itself.
My 3 quotes. The first quote would be, "There are certain crimes that are simply too cruel, too sadistic, too hideous to be forgiven." The second one would be manipulation, domination, control. These are the 3 watchwords of violent serial offenders. And the third one, the more I questioned these guys, the more I came to understand that the successful criminals were good profilers.
I also have 3 quotes from my book. On page 307, it states, "Once more, Gary had thrown away his life." And on page 386, it states, "This may be all the family I have left in the world, but it is family enough." And on page 283, it states, "Maybe if I'd known that, things might have ended up different."
Out of the whole book you read, what would be a scene that shocked you the most as you were reading it?
One of them really caught my attention was when John Douglas was interviewing serial killer Ed Kemper, and throughout the book he explained how charming he was. He was very smart, and he didn't look like a serial killer or a psychopath at all. The weird thing about this guy is that he turned himself in instead of the police trying to catch him, because he was sick and tired and he just wanted to confess to his crimes. But that doesn't make him any less of a serial killer.
I agree.
But one of the scenes that I specifically remember was when Nick almost overdosed, and he was in New York and he had no family, he only had his friends over. And the landlord had found him in his house, and he was lying on the mattress, a dirty mattress. They called 911 and they came and they rushed him to the hospital. If he would have stayed at that place, he would have died. But he gained back his health, sort of, and they check on him and stuff, and then he calls his father, and his father tells him, "I'm coming to New York now, I'm gonna go check on you." And he hung up on him, and then as he was driving to the airport, Nick leaves the hospital, and then Nick continues doing drugs and saying he's staying sober. And that's really one of the specific scenes that I remember reading.
One scene that was really meaningful in this book was towards the end. In that scene, Frank and Michael reunited and swear to tell each other everything. And this is when Michael finally told Frank Jr. the truth about who his real father was. And then Frank had asked him, "Are we still brothers?"
and Michael stated that they'll always be brothers. And this just shows that even through all the tragedy they went through, they love each other and will continue to be there for each other no matter what from that moment on, because they're the only family they have left.
Emily, what could you tell people to make them read your book?
If you are interested in books talking about murder and the reasons behind it, this will be the book for you.
What is something that was meaningful to you in the book, or like a scene that you remember reading about in the book?
Okay, well, one of the scenes was where John Douglas was talking with his coworker, and his coworker was having an affair, and John Douglas was basically telling him, like, what are you doing? Like, you have a beautiful wife with like 3 children, and you're basically just throwing your life away. So he was actually trying to interrogate his coworker without the coworker even realizing it. And so one of his quotes that he said was, "We're all vulnerable. It doesn't matter how much you know, how experienced you are, how many suspects interrogations you've handled successfully. It doesn't matter if you understand the technique. Each of us can be gotten to if you can just figure out where and how we're vulnerable."
Christy, what was your most shocking part of your book?
How much Nick's dad stayed with Nick throughout the whole entire time of his disease and what he's gone through. I was really impressed with that, because if I was him, I would have like already given up on that. It's just crazy how much he could have handled, and especially with his aneurysm, when his brain just like completely just stops for just like that a time. He still like thought of Nick and wanted to call him and make sure like he was safe.
He really loved it.
He really loved him. And this concludes our video.
Bye!
I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and ride on time.
And you get yourself
Light up like this. I'm far away from.
It's a guy. He's a guy.
Have you ever?
What in this lately? Mission control. Am I drifting? Tell me to someone. Wait. I think I'll.
See the clouds move. That's funny.
Oh my gosh!
The reason to breathe this air, and that we made for ourselves. This won't be the last time. Never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this.